Hey, Cathie Wood. Yes, Cathie Wood. We got to talk about Cathie Wood in this video here today. Basically, there's a lot going on with Cathie Wood with ARK Invest right now. And I want to talk about a massive move she just did in what would usually be considered a high conviction stock, a long-term play, okay? And I've got to kind of attack her a bit for this, essentially, because this seems a little insane. And then she brought up a really, really interesting point recently on something I want to show you guys in regards to what's going on with the markets and the index. And I thought, let me just show you guys exactly what's going on here, because I think this is really, really intriguing. I don't even think most folks would think this is going on, but I want to show you, okay? So I figured let's get out the nasty stuff first. Let me attack her, and then I'm going to essentially stick up for her in another situation, all right? So when it comes to Palantir, right? This is a stock that's been devastated very recently. This is a ultimate long-term play, in my opinion, in the market. A very impressive company that has very, very strong growth. Cross-section of artificial intelligence and data, and companies using that data to hopefully make better decisions, right? And their historical business is really with the government. But their exciting business is in the commercial sector. In the U.S., they're growing ridiculous right now, triple-digit type growth in U.S. commercial. It's phenomenal, right? So this is a great, long-term play. I would consider it a great long-term play, right? Stock's been hurt heavily, okay? The past 5 days, the stock has fallen 21%. In the past 3 months, this stock is down almost 50%. It's been almost cut in half in the past 3 months. And here today, literally today, this stock hit a 52-week low of $10.30, all right? Palantir, it's been nasty, right? Now, this is a stock that Cathie Wood owns, right? One of their bigger positions, not like a top 10 position, but in the top 20, it's been at least very recently, okay? And you would think in this type of situation, while stock's near the 52-week low, they have really impressive numbers, she's got to be out there buying the stock. Well, what if I told you that not only is she not buying the stock, but she is dumping every share in sight of Palantir stock right now? My friend sent me this, who keeps very, very up to date on everything going on out there. He says 11.75 million shares unloaded of Palantir here today. She's down to 200,000 shares total after having 24.5 million shares Wednesday of last week. What does she see with this company dumping that many shares here? She didn't trim. She got out as fast as she could without crashing the price, okay? I want to talk about this Palantir situation, then we're going to get into some really, really intriguing stuff, okay, in regards to the market. I think this is a horrible look for Cathie Wood, in my personal opinion. A horrible look, okay? Let's keep this in mind. Palantir is building into very much a cult-like stock, right? It hasn't gone full cult mode yet because it hasn't had a big upswing. But I can promise you, as soon as that baby has a big upswing, and it's debatable when that happens, does it happen over the next month, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? That's up for debate. But I can tell you, when this one does start moving, it is going to build into the strongest cult stock, in my opinion, in the stock market since Tesla, okay? Which is going to make this shareholder base extremely sticky. Now, when you have folks that really, really believe in this company and love this company, right? And you decide to buy 24.5 million shares, and make this into a several $100,000 position, right? Several $100,000, and I believe the loss ARK is taken on this in total is approaching, I think it's approaching, oh gosh, I don't even want to say, it's like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, the loss is ridiculous on this one, okay? But when you build this into a really large position where you own massive amounts of shares, and then you dump almost in all these shares entirely, this makes Cathie Wood and ARK look very, very weak in this scenario. And I mean extremely weak, right? And the fact that because I've looked at their I thought about it from all these different angles, and I was like, well, what about the inflows and outflows of money? Maybe she's forced to, sell some stocks because of outflows of money, something like that. I would not call myself, an ultra expert when it comes to how to run an ETF. But I thought about that, and I was like, well, that seems a little extreme. Yeah, sell your entire Palantir position when it's at 52-week lows, when it's at all-time lows. In a situation, that seems a little funny there, right? Then I thought about it from, well, maybe the earnings, there was something in there bad that she didn't like. I went over those earnings, okay? I went every single thing I could possibly look at in those earnings. And there was nothing shockingly bad in those earnings. There were a few metrics and numbers that could have missed. There were also a few metrics that came in better than what I think a lot of folks were expecting. So the earnings, it wasn't it. I listened to the earnings conference call, and I've listened to it actually twice now, once at night and once in the morning the next day again. And I listened to it on the Hungry Bull app, by the way, which is my app where you can listen to earnings calls for free right inside the app. You just type in the ticker symbol, go to earnings calls, and you can listen to it. And you can put it at whatever you want, 1.5x speed, 2x speed, or whatever. And I listened to the earnings call twice. And I walked away from that earnings call more bullish than I was previously. So I didn't see anything in the numbers, the conference call, anything to turn somebody off. Then I thought, well, maybe she got turned off because of some of the past of Palantir's business model and how they do business with government and things like that. But I was like, wait a minute. Cathie Wood says ARK has the best research team out there. Well, they should already know about Palantir's past and the work they do with governments. And if you think there's anything shady going on there, well, if you got the best research team, you should already know that, right? There's no shocking information that has come out that's so bad. So I'm looking at this from all these different angles, and none of it's adding up. I mean, absolutely none of it's adding up other than Cathie Wood looking like she paper-handed Palantir stock. That's all it looks like in the end. She paper-handed the stock, selling it at almost an all-time low. And, in the situation, is it possible Palantir can keep falling and fall to 9 and fall to 7 and fall to 5? Sure. All things are possible, right? But I think that it begins to become a little unrealistic in this scenario. And so for her to be dumping these shares, right, instead of picking them up, it makes her look bad. It makes ARK Invest look bad. They lost a fortune in this, and not like a paper loss. This is like a real loss. Like not getting that money back, like that money's gone now, okay? And it makes them look bad. It makes long-term investors look bad in the end because ultimately she just ends up looking like a trader in this situation. When you dump a stock that is supposed to be a long-term conviction play at near all-time lows, it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look at all, and especially for somebody like Cathie Wood that is, super, super famous in the stock market now. And so this was extremely just disappointing, I would say. And, I think she's going to end up getting a lot of hate for this. I think this will be something that follows her around for potentially years in the future about the time she sold Palantir at pretty much all-time lows. And, it's going to get a lot, I can tell you, it's going to be a lot worse on the hate she'll get if Palantir ends up becoming a B stock over the next 3-5 years. I mean, imagine a scenario where, let's say Palantir is somewhat close to the bottom right now. Let's say maybe it bottoms out at 9, maybe it bottoms out at 10. Let's say we're pretty darn close to the bottom, right? And she sold out near the bottom, and let's say the stock goes to $20, $30, $40 over the coming years, or maybe even higher than that over the next 3-5 years. People aren't going to forget that, right? Because she's so famous, and people track this on a high level. Like, imagine how many people are like my friend that track her moves on a daily basis. That's one of the reasons I created CathieWoodStocks.com, which tracks her top 25 positions on a daily basis for the main ARK fund, right? And so, really, really disappointed to just see that sort of move out of her like that, to just dump all those shares when a stock's near a 52-week low. Because a lot of people look at Cathie Wood as one of those people, like long-term investor, right? Supposed to be a long-term investor, and looks at her as kind of like a role model, an idol in the stock market. And if they see a leader or somebody that's perceived to be a leader just completely dump 24.5 million shares, or whatever the insane amount is, 24 million shares of Palantir stock, dump just massive amounts when the stock's already pretty much at an all-time low, then other people think, oh, I guess I can just do that when times get tough. Just dump all your shares at 52-week lows and all-time lows. So yeah, pretty darn disappointing to see. I think she's going to have to address this one head on. This is not just like selling out of some random stock. This is Palantir, and there's a lot of people that really care about this stock. And so yeah, disappointing to kind of see a move like that. That's all I'll say. She's going to really need to step up and address why she sold Palantir. And no matter what, it's not going to be a good look. Like I said, if you're supposed to be an ultra long-term investor, there was no metric that was missed in that earnings call that makes you say, I've got to get out of the Palantir stock today. There was nothing. So ultimately just kind of a disappointing move to kind of see there. And it makes a lot of people say, man, maybe she just bought that stock because Palantir has a big following. And so maybe she just bought that to get people's attention. Well, guess what? She lost ARK lost a fortune on this. And so I don't think there's really anybody that could defend her in this situation. That's just a bad situation and a bad look, okay? Now, the next thing I want to talk about here, and this is maybe a good point Cathie Wood made recently, okay? She was talking about the NASDAQ, okay? And she was talking about, like, people still think of the NASDAQ, because you see the NASDAQ everywhere. We got on the front page of the Hungry Bowl. It's on the front page of Yahoo Finance. It's on the front page of CNBC, Bloomberg. Everywhere you go, you see the NASDAQ, right? And so you think when you see the NASDAQ up or down, you conceptualize it must be like a bunch of like big tech stocks, right? Like that's what you would perceive. And I didn't even know it had gotten so extreme in the NASDAQ 100. And what you're going to find is the NASDAQ 100 is not this extreme thing anymore. The NASDAQ is actually extremely lame. And when you see the NASDAQ index, it's basically referring to the NASDAQ 100. And if it's up or down in the day, it's because of the NASDAQ 100. Because you really look at this sometimes, you're like, man, the NASDAQ's not as volatile as you'd really think. Well, look at the stocks that are in this thing, right? It's not the crazy high growth names that it used to be in the early 2000s or even like it was 10 years ago. Look at a lot of these stocks, okay? Apple, okay, that's comes to be expected in the NASDAQ. Airbnb, Adobe, Analog Devices, Automatic Data Processing, Autodesk, okay. American Electric Power Company? Are you kidding me? That's in the NASDAQ 100. American Electric Power Company? All right. Align Technologies, which makes the invisible braces for your teeth. Get STC instead of Align, okay? Applied Materials, AMAT. AMD, that should be expected in this, right? Amgen, Amazon, that would be expected in the NASDAQ, right? Some of these other companies, Activision, Blizzard, okay, that would be expected. Broadcom, AstraZeneca, Big Pharma. Baidu, that would be expected. Biogen, Booking Holdings, right? Cadence Design Systems, all right. Constellation Energy Corporation. Okay, we got an energy company in the NASDAQ too, right? Charter Communications, put me to sleep. Okay, this is in the NASDAQ, all right. Comcast is in the NASDAQ. All right, put me to sleep twice, 3 times, 4 times. Costco? I mean, I love Costco. Costco's awesome, but Costco's a NASDAQ 100 stock. All right. Copart, CrowdStrike, Cisco. All right, I guess we can expect Cisco. CSX Corporation, the big railroad, is a NASDAQ 100 stock. Okay. Cintas, Datadog. Okay, Datadog's expected. Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree's a flipping flapjack in dollar store. We got a dollar store chain that's in the NASDAQ 100 nowadays. Wow, interesting, okay. DocuSign, that should be expected. Dexcom, Electronics Arts, eBay, man, we could barely call them a tech company, all right. Exelon Corporation, Fastnell Corporation, okay. Meta, that comes to be expected that Meta's in it. You got Gillette Sciences, you have Google McDougal. We should expect Google to be in the NASDAQ 100, right? Honeywell, okay, put me to sleep. IDEX Laboratories, Illumina Corporation, Intel, that's expected to be, some of these stocks are obviously tech companies, but they're much lower growth tech companies, but we got to kind of expect those to be in here, right? Can't all be high growth. Intuit, all right, yeah, barely a tech company. Intuit, I love Intuit. It's just a beautiful business model. We use Intuit, but I mean, come on. Intuitive Surgical, as expected. JD.com, as expected. Keurig Dr. Pepper is in the NASDAQ 100. The Kraft Heinz Company. Okay. Put me to sleep. KLA Corporation. Lucid is actually that one's actually surprising that Lucid's in the NASDAQ 100. That one surprised me, okay. Lam Research. Lululemon, a clothing company, is in the NASDAQ 100. Marriott's in the NASDAQ 100. All right. Microchip. Mondelez Corporation, another massive food company, is in the NASDAQ 100. Mercado Libre is in the NASDAQ 100. All right. Monster's now in the NASDAQ 100. Monster is not nearly the growth it once had, but that one's in the NASDAQ 100. Moderna is in the NASDAQ 100. Marvell Technologies, that one I would expect to be in the NASDAQ. Microsoft, that one I would expect. Match, that one I would expect. Micron, biggest memory chip maker out there, that I would expect. Netflix, Nvidia, those are to be expected. NXP Corporation, to be expected. Old Dominion Freight Line. Old Dominion Freight Line's in the NASDAQ 100. Alrighty. O'Reilly, this is my favorite one of the bunch. O'Reilly Automotive. O'Reilly Automotive, the competitor to AutoZone, is in the NASDAQ 100. All right, go get an air freshener and get something to fix your car in the NASDAQ 100, all right? Oh, gosh, Palo Alto Networks to be expected. Pepsi? Pepsi's in the NASDAQ 100. All righty. PepsiCo, oh boy, okay? This is not your grandma's NASDAQ 100. No, it is truly your grandpa's NASDAQ 100, okay? Wow, this is special. PayPal, Qualcomm to be expected. Ross Stores is in the NASDAQ 100. That might be my new favorite, okay? Ross Stores, seriously, right? Starbucks, S-Bucks, the $6 latte, that's in the NASDAQ 100 now. SiriusXM Holdings, come on, man. Skyworks Solutions to be expected. T-Mobile's a NASDAQ 100 stock. Oh boy, okay. Tesla to be expected. Texas Instruments to be expected. Walgreens Boots Alliance, my old Walgreens. Okay, that one's in the NASDAQ 100. So when you go ahead and you look at the NASDAQ 100 here, you're going to see a lot of the names that we expect to be in the NASDAQ 100. Like if I ask just like anybody that with a little bit of stock market knowledge, what stocks do you think would be in the NASDAQ 100? You're going to hear, Apple, Amazon, Google, your Meta, You'd expect some of these companies, right? But I mean, there's so many of these companies, right, that are not even tech companies that are now in the NASDAQ 100. And when most folks think about the NASDAQ 100, they just automatically assume it's just all a bunch of tech stocks. And really, when you start going through this, you're like, Lululemon, a clothing company's in here? Marriott, the old hotel chains in here? You got massive food companies in here? And so nowadays, Pepsi's in the NASDAQ 100? Come on, man. So, O'Reilly Automotive's Ross? Go to Ross and get yourself some cheap clothes, okay? I mean, so nowadays, basically, when you think about the NASDAQ and when you see that NASDAQ number, don't think, oh, that's just all the tech stocks or something like that. Now do understand that's just basically a little more risky version of the S&P 500. That's all it is now, is a little more aggressive version of the S&P 500. I don't think it really gives you a good context to what's happening with risk stocks. And do keep in mind the NASDAQ is down over 16% from basically 52-week highs. But this is not the NASDAQ of back in the days when it was a bunch of risk on. When you look at that NASDAQ number, just keep in mind all it is a slightly more risky version of the S&P 500. And that's all it is nowadays. So I think she brought up a really good point there that I think we should all be aware of. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. As always, let me know what you think about Cathie Wood and her move in regards to, obviously, Palantir stock. And also let me know what you think about today's NASDAQ 100. Love to hear from you guys in that comment section. As always, if you want some free stocks from Momo, check out pinned comment down there. Much love as always. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and have a great day.